Imagine that as a young child, you made millions of dollars. You spent your whole childhood working for this money, and as you grow into adulthood, you realize it's all been taken from you when you needed it most. Did you have a right to that money? Would you take action to get it back? Young stars in the early 20th century suffered from financial abuse during the rise of television and entertainment. Jackie Coogan was a renowned former child star who sued his mother for reparations, leading to the Coogan Act in 1939. Thanks to revisions being made, financial well being was more secure for childhood actors. However, legislative loopholes still allowed cases to slip through the cracks, as guardians failed to meet the responsibility of creating a Coogan account for their child. In the early 20th century, Hollywood and film began to blossom. Entertainment wasn't just live performances anymore. After the first movie was created in 1872 with motion toys, film expanded as they experimented with new technologies like video editing and backdrops. These new developments led to exceptional movies and produced influential stars such as Charlie Chaplin. In the 1920s, movies such as The Gold Rush would quickly shoot stars to the top. The concept of celebrities and fame was forever changed by these productions, as actors and actresses got idolized for their work. As for finances, they would make anywhere from $50 to $2,500 a week. General state labor laws applied to actors, and they could join actors' unions, such as the Screen Actors Guild, for legal protections on set. Children also participated in this newly found way to stardom. They would soon become iconic for their adorable appearances on the silver screen and be loved by the nation. On average, child actors in this era would make about $40,000 to $125,000 a week. However, an unfortunate lack of protections allowed for the exploitation of these children. Child labor laws were a global struggle. In America, regulations for child workers began post-industrialization, including attempts from groups such as the National Child Labor Committee to abolish child labor altogether. Laws were constantly contested in court, one example being the Fair Labor Standards Act, which had multiple vetoes and needed many attempts to even be put into law. More cases and laws came through the years, but the protections of these children were left unstable. In the early 1900s, child actors became a staple in American film. Young stars began to get leading roles in productions, one of the first being Edwin S. Porter, who played Jack in 1902's Jack and the Beanstalk. Acclaimed stars such as Baby Peggy began to make an appearance in TV and film, and solidified the growth of childhood acting. However, in addition to the struggle of implementing federal child labor laws, child actors had no specific protections of their rights. While the Fair Labor Standards Act was signed into law in 1938, which put restrictions and regulations in for working minors, majority of the protections did not apply to kids in the entertainment industry, which included movies, TV shows, and live theater. This would lead to multiple cases of exploitation of talents, influence, and finances due to the lack of responsibility of parents, directors, managers, and producers. John Leslie Coogan, or Jackie Coogan, was another child actor from this era, but really took off in 1921 when he starred in the classic silent film The Kid with Charlie Chaplin. Before he was 18 years old, Coogan starred in 19 silent films, made millions, and became a box office attraction. Unfortunately, Coogan would not receive all of his earnings due to a lack of legal protection of his rights and his mother's ignorance towards the responsibility of managing his finances. As Coogan grew, so did his fortune. He was one of the most renowned child actors of the time and also became the owner of his family's production company. At this point in his life, Coogan had made around $4 million, which would be over $75 million today. When he was only 20 years old, Coogan, his father, and 3 other passengers were forced off the road while driving in Mexico. Coogan was left severely injured, and the other passengers died, including his father. This became a hard time for the young star. With his father, John Coogan, now gone, his mother, Lillian Coogan, married his business manager and their family lawyer, Arthur Bernstein, after a scandalous relationship. Just a few months later, Jackie Coogan turned 21. At this age, he would be able to access his earnings, but his mother and stepfather stated they had no intention to give him any of his profits, and they instead spent the money on luxuries for themselves. Coogan's mother said no promises were ever made to give Jackie anything. Every dollar a kid makes before he is 21 belongs to his parents. She also argued that Coogan was too irresponsible to handle his own finances due to his struggle with alcohol addiction. After 2 years without his earnings, Coogan became practically broke, living off only his wife's salary. Appalled by his mother's irresponsible behavior and hurtful words, he finally decided to take action, stating, "Now I owe a duty to my wife and myself not to wait any longer." In 1938, he took his mother and stepfather to the Los Angeles Superior Court to sue for reparations. The case was full of allegations, emotions, and tension, constant back and forth between Coogan and his mother as they pled their cases. Lily and Coogan testified that they had every right to Coogan's money, and that he was never promised anything. Arthur Bernstein specifically claimed that Coogan made less than what he claimed. Coogan stated that he had a right to that money, and that his mother and stepfather were to be held accountable for their irresponsibility. After a long 18 months, the lawsuit ended in 1939. Coogan only came out with less than $126,000 from the original $4 million taken from him. All the publicity of the lawsuit, including many different news articles and rumors, caught the attention of one of Wisconsin's representatives, Raymond Joseph Cannon. He presented the bill to the House of Representatives, declaring that the financial plight of Coogan has shocked the conscience of the nation. On Friday, April 22, 1938, Superior Judge Emmett Wilson issued a court order that no screen contracts with a minor can be approved unless the parents or guardians agree to establish a trust in the child's name. This led to the creation of the California Child Actors Bill, also known as the Coogan Act, which went into effect on September 19, 1939. This law, in Coogan's words, gives most of the child's salary to a court trust fund so parents and guardians can't get it. After the lawsuit, Coogan continued his acting career, which included one of his most famous roles as Uncle Fester in the 1964 sitcom The Addams Family. He passed away on March 1, 1984, with around $15 million to his name. Now with the Coogan Act in place, it was legally required that every child actor had a trust monitored by the court called a Coogan account. This account would hold a minimum of 15% of a child's gross earnings. Then, once they turned 18, they could access the money. While the first attempt was strong, it was still excluding other child celebrities like musicians and stunt people, and it was only in effect in California. Even with the act, child actors were left in the dark. Federal child labor laws did not apply to kids in the entertainment industry, which left them to only rely on state laws. They could also join actors' unions for protections, such as SAG-AFTRA, who would require certain work hours and conditions for their members, but joining has a fee. Overall, no other laws or protections were put in place for their rights. Other child actors began to take matters into their own hands when it came to their rights and taking responsibility for their finances. 50 years after Coogan, a young pop idol, Tiffany Darwish, also known as just Tiffany, took her mother to court to emancipate from her in 1988. Many more kids took this route and fought for their rights going into the 90s and 2000s. Revisions began to be made in 1999 and went through many changes. More states in the U.S. adopted regulations in order to protect child stars. As of today, 34 states and Puerto Rico have regulations in place specifically for kids in entertainment. They each have their own variations to these laws. New York's laws are similar to California's, as children need a trust fund set up in their name where their earnings will go. However, in New York, they also need what's called a custodian, which is somebody who watches over the finances. As for children in states where there's no specific protections for child actors, including Nevada, Kentucky, and Oklahoma, general child labor laws implemented by the state are the only protections they have. The most recent expansion of the Act, California Assembly Bill 1880, was made in September 2024. This new addition now includes child influencers on social media platforms. They will be legally required to have a Coogan account and have some financial security and reassurance. This was signed into law by California Governor Gavin Newsom and former child star and pop singer Demi Lovato. It went into effect on January 1st, 2025. The actions Coogan took to reclaim his finances sparked new legislative steps in protecting child celebrities, leaving behind a legacy of protection and financial security. The act is constantly being improved and altered to adjust with the time, and still has a long way to go to fully ensure the rights of these children, on and off set.